The next question is problems with Roman Catholicism. Did Jesus give Peter the keys? Now, if you listen to the debate that I did with Nick Fuentes, I answer this question, and I'm very precise, very clear in the way that I answer it multiple times in the debate because it keeps coming up. The giving of Peter the keys is because Peter is the first to confess the divinity of Christ in Matthew 16. So it's a reward. It's a place of honor given to Peter because of being the first to confess that Christ is not just a great prophet, but actually the Son of God. He's eternally generated from the Father. He's the Son from all eternity, and thus fully divine, and not just a prophet like Elijah or John the Baptist. So, yes, he gave Peter the keys, but every one of those promises that goes along with what it means to have the keys, in Orthodox theology, this means the office of the bishopric. The bishops have the office of the keys, insofar as they are the successors to the apostles. So you'll see this in Timothy, where Paul, lays his hands on Timothy and says that I ordained you to be my successor in Ephesus. No one else is authoritatively allowed to teach in Ephesus. So there, and in many other places, like in the book of Acts, where we see episkopos in the Greek used for the episcopate, that shows us that the bishopric is the successors in succession from the apostles. It doesn't mean that they have the exact same office as the apostles. We don't believe that any bishop today is the equivalent of Paul. He's not receiving direct revelation or anything like that. The canon is closed. Revelation is closed. But the office includes the power of jurisdiction, the power of remitting sins, and the power of performing the sacraments. So those are the three things that we would say that are involved in what it is to be a bishop. A bishop presides over a certain area. A bishop has the power to remit and retain sins, which Jesus explains at the end of the Gospel of John. He breathes on them and says, whoever sins you retain, they're retained. Whoever sins you remit, they're remitted. And then the preaching of the gospel, of course, goes along with that. But what we get from Jesus breathing on all of the apostles and giving them the power to remit and retain sins is not something that comes down through Peter. It doesn't have to go from Jesus to Peter to everyone else. Jesus breathes directly on all of them. And so all of the things that are entailed in having the office of the keys are not unique to Peter alone. They're given to every one of the apostles. When you read the book of Acts, you see this play out. If we look at Acts 15, it's very easy to determine that it's not Peter that presides and determines everything at the Council in Jerusalem. It's actually James that presides at the Council of Jerusalem in Acts 15. And of course, Peter is rebuked by Paul, which again shows that there's not a papal primacy that is somehow possessed by Peter, and then only bishops that Peter ordains then have this power. So it's really preposterous. It's not at all what's taught in the church fathers. There are some church fathers who do talk about the double apostolic nature of Rome because Peter and Paul died there. They were martyred there. And if you look at Orthodox icons of Peter and Paul, we have the feast of Saints Peter and Paul on the same day. They both are equal, holding up the church. If you look at the way the church is described in the Apocalypse, the 12 cornerstones that make up the New Jerusalem, it's all the apostles. It's not just Peter that's the cornerstone. In fact, in the debate with Nick, the cornerstone quotes that he thought were about Peter are explained as prophecies of Jesus. They don't have any direct correlation to Peter whatsoever, anywhere in Scripture or in tradition. And this is why for the first 1,000 years of the church functioned under ecumenical councils called by the emperor. They didn't function by Petrine divine fiat. And another easy way to show this is to look at the now admittedly forged documents, such as the Gratian decretals, the papal decretals, that were used to back up not just the Petrine office, because you have to keep in mind that the Roman Catholic claims evolve over time. They're not just some thing where you go to Matthew 16 and you look to see if Peter has universal jurisdiction. It's expanded to mean dogmatically in Roman Catholic theology not just universal spiritual dominion, but also universal temporal potentate power. So Peter is actually the head of all emperors and potentates. There's nothing like that anywhere, obviously, in the first 1,000 years. And if that's false, then that alone refutes the whole thing. And of course, you don't see Francis or anyone today still claiming that. This was a medieval claim that was dogmatic. Look at Unum Sanctum. It's dogmatic that as a Roman Catholic, you're supposed to believe that. The Roman Catholic Church today doesn't even believe that. They don't believe that Francis can go around and depose emperors and presidents. No, in fact, he doesn't even remotely teach traditional theology whatsoever. And even the neo-Catholic, the neo-conservatives amongst the Roman Catholics are now admitting that Francis doesn't even look to be Catholic at all. So they're recognizing that he is a manifest heretic. It's not hard to figure out. But Orthodoxy said this for a long time, that the root of the problem is the whole superstructure, the whole bureaucracy in terms of the whole kit and caboodle. So the giving of the keys is just simply an honor, a primacy of honor that's given to Peter. And if this wasn't just a primacy of honor, then Paul couldn't in Romans 11 threaten the church at Rome be grafted out. Clearly he says that. He warns the church at Rome that you can all be grafted out, which would make no sense if it was absolutely impossible for the church in Rome to be grafted out. It's not that difficult. And once you know church history and you realize that this is all premised on basically a bunch of political machinations, on Frankish power, Charlemagne, all the changes in the West, especially after 800, denying infants paedo communion, which the West practiced for the first 800 years. I mean, it all just becomes really obvious once you actually read the Church Fathers. And yes, if Rome was to convert and become Orthodox, I don't think any Orthodox people would have a problem saying he's the first amongst equals. But we follow Paul, for example, who rebukes Peter.